Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, or good afternoon, actually, or good evening, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And I want to ask, how you doing today, babe?
I'm doing really well. I just took a look at what you put up on the screen.
Oh, the two
Good morning,
sides
America.
of T.J. Holmes.
Oh my goodness.
TJ with his wife, and TJ with
With
his
his
with his white.
his right.
He's got his wifey, and his whitey. I need to stop. I'm
You
being
should
mean.
cut it out, voice. That's
That's
not
just
nice.
that's just cold. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Let me know if you can hear us. Give us a yes in chat if you can hear us. Okay. Also, shout out the city that you're from. We are doing Pillow Talk. This show is called Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. And I'm a finance professor. My wife is a social work professor, and we just decided to do a show based on the stuff we talk about when we're laid against our pillows. So can you guys hear us okay? Let us know if you can hear us all right. Hey, RB Ball, how are you? RB's out of Minneapolis. Hey, I am Sunshine. Good to see you. She said, yes, sir. Okay, thank you. I'm seeing some yeses. Jewel is from New York. Love New York. Gotta go to New York. I was gonna talk to a
We
lady
were
on.
just in New
Well, I
York.
talked to a lady on the plane about New Jack City Live. I gotta see that.
Wait,
New Jack
New
City
Jack
Live,
City, the movie.
the play.
Oh, they made it into a play.
Yes, with
I
Alan Payne, who still looks like he's a teenager. Yeah, he played G Money again, 30 years later.
wait. Wait, is it hold on? Is it a reboot or is it a remake of the same film?
It's a play, baby. It's the play version of the movie.
A play version
Yes,
of the movie.
yes, New Jack City Live.
And it's in New York and you want to go to this.
No, I want to go see it in Chicago. Flex, Flex Shanice's husband. He's my Instagram friend. He told me that when they come to Chicago, I told you that today at dinner.
Oh, you know what? I've been very busy today, so I didn't
Yeah.
have time to concentrate on what you were talking
Well,
about.
do
To be
you
honest
remember
with you,
though? Do you remember the
I remember you
conversation?
bringing it up, but I was in the middle of cooking.
Are we
And
having like old people conversations where you forget
no,
something that we talked about 2 hours ago?
voice. Do you realize when you came in and talking to me, it was like three other people talking to me at the same time.
Anyway, so
It
in New
was a lot of
York,
people
that
talking.
so I heard that New Jack City Live is good, and shout out to Flex.
Okay, so they're
Flex and
gonna
I
come to
Instagram friends.
Chicago, and we're gonna go see them. Okay,
Yes,
all right.
yes. He told us we can. He's gonna give us our tickets.
Are we getting a hookup?
Yes.
All right, I'm down for some hookups.
Dang, I gotta be repeating myself.
Sorry, I
Anyway,
wasn't paying
hey
attention.
Kimberly Porter out of Portland, Oregon, from Ohio. She says she's from Ohio. She says I love your show. We love you too, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. All right, so how many of you heard? Give me a yes or no in the chat. How many of you heard about the situation with T.J. Holmes and Good Morning America? And I think the lady's name is Amy Robach. And apparently, those two got caught having a workplace relationship.
Man,
Eh.
I've been following the story as it's been unfolding. It's been quite
Yeah,
fascinating.
this kind of jumped your piqued your spidey senses. What got you so into this?
Oh, it's just, well, first of all, I've been watching this show called The Morning Show,
Okay.
and it's on it's on Apple TV.
Yes.
It is so good. And it is the exact replica of what's happening in real life on Good
Mm,
Morning America.
wow. Okay.
Well, not an exact replica, but close enough
Well,
where you're
maybe
just like, what is going on?
well maybe that's why they did it that way because it happened. I mean, maybe that's why they did the episode because this probably happens a lot. I mean, workplace relationships are very common. Co-workers working together, long nights at the office, and all that.
Yeah, you
You
spend
know.
all day together. I mean, think about, can you imagine like how the high pressure of doing Good Morning America? You're up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have to go in and you have to like put on, and you got on nice clothes and you look good. Someone's doing your makeup and everything. Someone's giving you clothes, nice clothes to wear, and you're sitting in and you're doing the show and you're in meetings all day long with the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just like this on-screen sort of synergy that makes the show really popular. That's also what makes you kind of fall in love with someone.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, I mean, I guess I could see that too, right?
Yeah,
And I.
because when we're on here, sorry to cut you off, but when
Mhm.
we're on here and we do pillow talks, it makes me all giddy.
Oh, does
I'm
it?
all like, you know how excited I get. And I'm like, oh, I get to talk to voice.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know.
Well, you know what? It's um, and I feel giddy talking to you too. It's kind of interesting because some people would say, okay, these are just two consenting adults. They did what they were going to do. Who cares? Right. But there is kind of a whole protocol. I mean, I personally think that TJ is pretty brave because, remember, Ime Udoka basically did the same thing at the Boston Celtics. You saw what happened to him.
Yes, and then he covered it on the morning show. That's what makes it so funny. On Good Morning America.
Right.
He covered it. He covered it. And I thought it was just like really interesting because it was really just what was happening with himself. I mean,
Hmm.
I think what's interesting is like both of them were having probably difficult moments in their marriage. And it seems like, who's her name? Amy or something?
Amy Robach,
Amy Roebuck.
but
Amy
I think
Roebuck
that's her name.
was probably head deep, seems like, in a divorce herself.
Well, they both got separated this year.
They both got separated, but I think Amy was further along in her separation than he was.
Yeah.
That was my impression. So she was just probably done, and that left her really vulnerable to this handsome guy. Look at him. This handsome guy that she probably, you know,
Hmm.
felt really vulnerable, and he could smell it because he could smell it,
I can smell the
and it could
vulnerability
smell
on
the
you, like
vulnerability,
perfume, girl.
and he went for it. And it's really interesting because they tried to make it sound as if they were separated and then they started this relationship, but I would venture to say the relationship started and then they were separated because of this extramarital thing.
Mm.
That's what I kind of think what's going on. But the thing is that it's just so public. The
Hmm.
whole thing is so public. I can't imagine how humiliated their spouses who've been scorned by this devastating news.
Yeah.
And everybody knows about it, and we're talking about it right now. So it's terrible because a lot of people go through this privately, and it's already embarrassing privately, but I just can't imagine what it's like to just have it all over everywhere.
Well, what I would say is that it's interesting to me how we act so surprised when two people become attracted to each other when sex is happening all the time, everywhere, every day, all throughout
Yeah.
the world. Like we're all here because somebody has sex, and I bet at least half the time it was unauthorized sex, either premarital sex, extramarital sex. Sex with two people that would never admit that they were having sex. And it's kind of a funny thing because when I think about this thing with TJ and this lady, I think the only thing I would end up kind of challenging him on is, you got to be really bold to sleep with a white lady on your job because most black men get fired for that. And
She's going down and she's taking him down with her.
well, I don't know if she's
It
going down.
sounds as
I
if.
don't know if she's going to go down because remember when Ime Udoka slept with the white lady on his job, they treated him like a criminal and didn't even mention her name, like she was a victim.
Yeah, that was the part that
And it's like,
really
how was
was
she a victim
bothersome.
when she agreed to sleep with him? He didn't take it. Nobody took anything. Both people agreed, but yet the way the public kind of portrayed each of them separately was very different. At least in this particular case, it's almost like with TJ and this lady, for the most part, they're packaging them together like they're Bonnie and Clyde, like they got away with this thing. But you notice that one slick part of the way the media is portraying it is they're saying that she was devastated from her divorce and that
Mm-hmm.
she was vulnerable.
Well, I
And
just said that.
right,
I
and by
just
by
said that
her right,
myself.
and by them saying that she's vulnerable,
Uh-huh.
it almost sounds like he was predatory. He took advantage of her vulnerability.
Well, she was vulnerable, and he was too, by the way, because he was having
Mhm.
issues clearly from that not Facebook, but Instagram post that he put up on their
Oh,
anniversary.
the Instagram post is
How
crazy.
did he like take that down? That is crazy.
Yeah, well, he was talking about his wife, and I would read it to you guys. You can you get it up on your phone,
Oh, you
maybe?
want me to pull it up?
Yeah, see if you can pull it up. Because
Okay.
yeah, so he wrote on Instagram that basically his wife, who he's been
Can't
married
find my
to
phone.
since 2010,
Hmm.
that she and I would pull it up on the screen, but
He was
I don't
doing
know
the
so.
10-year challenge, right? The decade challenge. He was married to her for a decade, and
Yeah,
she's like, "It will be a surprise if she stays with me for another 10 days or
yeah,
even 10 hours
he was basically saying like I have no idea why she sticks around, even despite the fact that I have given her every reason to
to
leave.
leave me."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I'm just wondering like what that looks like when you have like a really handsome husband who's got millions of dollars and he's world famous
Mm-hmm.
and he's surrounded by all these women. I just wonder, what stories she might tell from that. But he got married in 2007, got divorced shortly after, and then he got married again in 2010
Oh,
to
I thought
an
he got
attorney.
divorced in 2007 and then got married in
It that you know what
2010.
that might have been it. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
read it
So
wrong.
he
Maybe
was married already.
yeah, I did read a little bit of TJ's bio, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't really talk judge much about how people live their personal lives, but I'll say TJ is a good journalist. I give him props. He's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a young Ed Gordon type.
Yeah, I can see him
Yeah,
on
I get.
60 Minutes.
Yeah, I think
He'll
Ed
be on
Gordon.
60
Ed
Minutes.
Gordon probably got a little salty when he saw TJ and kind of blow up. It's funny. I know Ed pretty well. I've met TJ. TJ called me one time out of the blue.
That's right. Tell us about what happened when he called you.
He
What do
just
you want? What do you
I
want
was
with
I
you?
was driving down the road,
Uh huh.
and it was after I'd written an article about BET and their mass exploitation of black people. And TJ called me, and I said, hey, he said, this is TJ Holmes. I said, who? He said, TJ Holmes from BET. And I was like, oh, hey. It
Did
was
you
like,
know who he was? Because I didn't. I've never even heard of him
I knew
before.
who he was, but I had to think,
Okay.
because, he's not quite an A-lister, but he's not, he's good. He's
So
good.
you just answer phone calls, like random phone calls with random
On
numbers
that
on it?
day, I happened to do that. I
Okay.
happened to do that. So I said, so he told me, he said, I got your number from Don Lemon. And I remember thinking, how did Don Lemon get my number? Oh, I've been on his show,
Oh,
but
Don Lemon got your number, boys.
you better stop. You better quit. Nobody starting no weird internet rumors. But anyway, so yeah, we were talking about BET, and he said you wrote that article about BET and how they disrespect the black community. He said we were sitting in a staff meeting, and it was like it was almost like you were in the meeting.
Oh
he said
wow.
he said you nailed it on the head. He said it was like you were in the same meetings we were in and heard the same conversations. And I said, good, I'm glad y'all having those conversations, because what y'all doing to the black community is ridiculous.
Okay, so when did this happen? When did you have this conversation with him?
I don't remember what year it was. I want to say maybe it was 2012 or something.
Okay, so really, so people in BET sit in a room and talk about how they're destroying their own people?
Well, you have the see BET. You have the Jewish white people that own BET, who are really the
Wait,
big
hold on.
bosses.
Don't you
They're
come
the
on now.
they're the one. No, seriously, the Redstone family. Look it
You're
up.
gonna
So
get canceled, boys.
look it up. Sumner Redstone and his family
Okay.
own BET, right? And they pretty much have their Negro minions who pretend to run BET, but they're really kind of overseers.
Okay.
So the overseers start to have these ethical dilemmas where they wonder, like, hey, if we're promoting mass drug addiction and violence in the black community, are we somehow culpable for what's happening to our own people?
They are. They are culpable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, but dang, but then there's the bag. I'm making money.
So wait, so black people from BET sit around a room and gripe about
Well,
what they're
I don't think
doing
they gripe. I think that I know
or have conversations about.
some former employees of BET who really almost feel like they work for Hitler. Like I'm sure, like,
Oh,
not
it's got to
the
be
way
terrible.
Nazi soldiers feel when they were taking orders from Hitler, and they look back and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, I know some. I know one person. I know of a person who
Well,
worked
I
there
mean,
who
but that's
felt the same way.
the
Hmm.
problem. As black people, we're trained at an early age to go get a job with the biggest bag. It don't matter what the job is. Like, you just go get the job with the biggest bag, and that's it. That's what led to that whole community wide debate over Deion Sanders and whether or not building an HBCU is a more meaningful role in society than simply building the University of Colorado.
Yeah, I mean that university has. Did you see someone put up the demographics of that university? It's like less than 5% black people in that school.
Really?
It's crazy. I don't even
Well,
want to start. Let's not start with Deion
well, you know
Sanders.
what? Here's the thing. There was just mixed opinions, and I think we got to respect all those perspectives, because they did offer him a lot of money and all this other stuff, but at the same time, it's like I think a lot of people felt that you could still make a lot of money hanging out with black folks. Like, you ain't gotta always just kind of abandon black people whenever, because that's what happens whenever you. That's why one of the reasons the black institutions don't grow is because whenever we get something good going in the black community, white folks come along and say, okay, how can we own a piece of that? How can we take that? And
I thought he had a little more integrity than that. Deion Sanders
well,
had more integrity.
I think so, but really, it's I wouldn't say he's a person of low integrity because he took the job. I see it as I thought he might be a person with extraordinary commitment. You know, I think it's short. It takes like your father. Your father turned down a lot of high-paying jobs at
Oh, he was
white.
never going to teach at a white institution.
Yeah, yeah.
Never.
He could have made a lot more money in
Hmm.
Boston or University of Louisville, but he said, "I want to go to an HBCU
He
because I want to
purposely
teach
went
black
to a
people."
HBCU. He said, "That's where I need to be. I
Right,
want to help. I want to be with my people in my
right,
community,
right,
in
and
my institutions."
right, and when I left, the white university, Syracuse University, to do things with the black business school, I had a lot of black people say, "Why would you spend time with black people? Like, why would you spend time teaching financial literacy to black people? You're selling yourself short. You're not going to
Hmm.
make as much money as you could. You should be, you should go to Wall Street or you should go to a white university where they have plenty of money." And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
There's nothing more important to me than being around black people. So I think, but it really, it's kind of like, I hope it works out for him. But it
But
did,
let's get back to
yeah.
let's. I could talk. Of course, I can talk about this for all day because I've been on fire with this. But
Well,
you've done so many podcasts on it already. We don't have to do another
well, I
one.
think there's a lot to talk about here. I think, and also people that listen to the Pillow Talk, they know that we talk
They
about
know we
whatever,
just gonna go
whatever
around,
comes on,
around and
whatever
around.
comes to mind. So some people can't hack it, and people like that, they shouldn't be here.
But wait, let's go back because we were talking about the Instagram post.
Okay,
I think he's still in love with her.
with who? His wife
I
or the?
think he still loves his wife. I don't think he likes Becky or
Yeah.
Amy or
Well,
whatever
why?
her name is.
Well, I think he probably loves. He probably likes both of them.
I
You
don't
know.
think he likes both of them.
I mean, maybe.
This is my
I mean,
prediction.
his
This is
wife.
my
Well, his
prediction.
wife's probably like the person he loves the most, and maybe in another capacity, he has this attraction to this lady.
Well,
But what do you think?
it's very questionable who he really loves because he didn't even take into consideration his behavior and the impact it would have on the hurt and the betrayal that it has on the people that he supposedly loves, which is his wife.
Well, I think.
However,
Don't you think that he understands that though? Because he wrote a whole Instagram post about it.
exactly. So when you look at this Instagram post, well, I mean, he definitely has some issues here, but if you look at that Instagram post, I just got the impression that he really does love his wife,
Hmm.
the woman that he's married to. And I think it would be really interesting to figure out if they actually get a divorce. Like my prediction is that they'll may he's going to leave that lady and go back to her. Maybe it's just what I hope would happen,
Hmm.
that they would strengthen their marriage, that they would do everything that they need to do, that he would just say, I he would just kind of have be remorseful and go back to her. Maybe it's just my little hopeful thing that the black man would really be committed, 100% committed to his black wife. Maybe it's my own little fantasy, but if he's willing to recommit to her, I could see it happening.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what? So what's up with the What was up with the pregnancy picture? Is she having a baby or
That's what I
something?
thought. I thought that she was pregnant, but maybe she's not pregnant now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like an old pregnancy picture.
Does anybody know, was T.J. Holmes' wife having a baby recently? If that's the case, that's obviously not gonna
She's not
go
pregnant in
well
this moment.
in the public eye.
That looks like an old picture.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I don't know. We tried to look it up. They said she was pregnant in 2012, but that was in the article we read, and I feel like it was almost. It's almost like I feel like it might be a typo.
So here he is. He's got two marriages that have basically gone to nothing, and he's
Hmm.
got children that he's left behind, and he's gone off.
Wait, what makes you think he left his children behind?
Well, not that he's left them behind, but there's children involved in these marriages, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. The first marriage didn't work out. We know the second marriage, it looks like it's not working out.
Hmm.
And so here he is. I mean, that's pretty. What do you think about that, boys?
Well, I think sometimes
You think it's like a midlife crisis or something for him?
I have no idea. I
Hmm.
don't know TJ like that.
Well, I mean, just
I
looking at
I
like
would I would say
his age, his status.
I would say that he's probably. I mean, he's a handsome guy. He's probably been a pretty boy his whole life. And remember, when we vilify men for cheating, remember they're cheating most of the time. They're cheating with a woman, except in Atlanta where it's like a 50-50.
They are. You never
Right,
know.
right. But
You
really
never
they're
know.
cheating with a woman. So it's interesting because women are the ones who who vilify the men for this behavior, but women are also the ones who participate, you know, and so it just becomes this interesting um little, you know, dynamic. And I think
Well, the thing is that it's just, I mean, think about, let's just all be empathetic to this wife for a second because she's the hurt person, right? Let's all be empathetic to her. Let's just think she's rolling around in her day, married to this man. She's a lawyer, so she's good in, in her career. She's with her husband and she trusts him. They got married and he trusts her and they're building together. They have this child together. They have made this agreement that they were going to be monogamous, and get married and have this commitment. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's sleeping around with Becky. Can you imagine the devastation that she's feeling? Like, I bet just in an instant, your whole world is turned upside down.
I guess so.
And you have to continue on with your career. She's got to go and be a lawyer and raise his children and carry on with herself. And she's hit with this devastating news. And so that's like that's the real devastation of not even just women, but just anybody in a relationship that feels like they have been betrayed in this devastating way. And then on top of that, it's all public, all out everywhere for all of us to kind of weigh in on it. Like, it's just really terrible when you come to think about like how she feels. It's amazing. Some people have PTSD from this,
Well,
post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people actually form PTSD from having all of that security in their relationship, have that taken away from them in an instant.
I think it's a false sense of security.
Well, clearly it is.
No, I mean,
Clearly
but I think
it's a false
no,
sense
I
because you
think
have this trust in
yeah,
somebody.
you know, I got cheated on a long time ago, and I just kind of concluded that like human beings are going to be attracted to each other, and that I'm not going to spend my time worrying about what somebody else does.
Yeah, I know.
I just not like I really will say, you know, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I would just say honestly, like I spent a lot of time thinking, gosh, if I'm with somebody, what if she really doesn't want to be with me, or what if she leaves me? For me, the fear wasn't so much cheating, because usually women don't tend to cheat as much, but the fear for me, the
Women do cheat.
women do cheat,
Oh my
but it's
goodness.
it's not in the same context as men typically. I am, from what I have observed, although women can cheat for sure.
And it's
For
way
me,
more
for
vicious.
me, it was more of concern about leaving. Like one minute we're together, the next minute you just decide I'm not good enough and you're gone. And that's when I just accepted the fact that I can't control what a person does or whatever. And that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had to make a choice. Either I play the game and deal with the risks, or I don't play the game at all. I sit on the sideline. I just say, hey, I'm not marrying anybody. I'm not dating nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to get hurt. Because you can guarantee that you'll never get hurt. You know, you can get like, you know, like with TJ and his wife, they could have never got married. You know, maybe TJ could just say, "Hey, look, you know, I really love you a lot, but I'm a play. I got all these white ladies at work that want a piece of this, and I cannot promise you over the next decade that I won't slip up a little bit."
Oh, I love that. Now that, okay, because you just said a bunch of different things. So
Mm-hmm.
being attracted to somebody, who cares? Like, anybody can be attracted to anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just having the discipline. I know you've talked about this a lot of times, having the discipline to wait, okay. It's having the discipline to not work on, what are you
Uh-huh.
doing?
What are your
Okay.
fingers?
It's having the discipline to not act on that. That's the part that that's really, the difference. So being attracted to somebody, I mean, we're all human. We all are going to be attracted to people. Look at this guy. He's nice looking. He's attractive, but I'm not gonna like reach out to him and try to, do anything, So that's the key thing. It's just like acting on your attraction. So that's the first thing. The second
Mm-hmm.
thing is that in healthy relationships,
Mm-hmm.
two of the things that are so important in healthy relationships is commitment and trust. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm certain when he married this lady, now, had he had a conversation with her when they got married and said, listen, I'm going to go and sleep around with a whole bunch of different women, and this is what it's going to be. So had he said, this is how our marriage is going to be. I'm going to go, I'm going to sleep around with a bunch of different women. I'm going to have all these extramarital things. And that's how it's going to be. This is what you're signing up for. Then that gives her the opportunity, or maybe she said that to him. I don't know. People have an agreement for fidelity when they get married to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you should be open and honest with each other when you get married, because that's going to be the rules of our relationship. And all healthy relationships have rules. And so that's what it is. So what essentially happens is that if you agree to that sort of a thing, that's
Mm-hmm.
where the trust is. Okay, I trust that when we get married that this is how it's going to be. And so if he has violated that trust, then, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there we go. Or she
Okay.
violates the trust. Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, you have to be, have accountability for what you
Mm-hmm.
agreed to do, and that you fact that you went back on that.
Okay, well, I have a response to that. But before I have a response, I'd like to say that you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and this is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And if you could take 1 second, please hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live. If you like intelligent Black conversations, that's what we like to do. And we also like to have fun. So, my wife is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. She's been seeing clients for many years. If you'd like to learn more about what she does, you can actually go to coachingwithdralicia.com. The URL's right there on the screen. Okay, so let me give another perspective on this. I remember when I was in my 20s, and
Okay.
I had a girlfriend that I'd been with for a while, and she loved me. I loved her, and I never made her stay. We chose to be with each other.
Mm-hmm.
All I heard from everybody was, "Why don't you marry her? Why don't you marry her? Why don't you marry her?"
Yeah. Why
And
didn't you marry her?
well,
I
let
think I
me,
know who
well,
you're
let me,
talking about.
you gotta let. Okay, so the reason I didn't marry her was because I said, so you're telling me that if I ever get married to her and I cheat a couple of times, once or twice, you're gonna label me the bad guy. I'm gonna be no. Listen, hold on.
How would you be labeled the
Wait,
bad guy?
hold on, baby. You gotta let
Mm-hmm.
me finish because you always cut me off.
I don't always cut you
Well,
off.
sometimes you do. All right. No, and people don't listen to men. When men tell, a lot of people will tell you who they are if you listen.
All right, I'm listening to
Right.
you.
So here's what um was going through my head. I was like, okay, I never understood that. I was like, I knew men I knew men who were really dedicated to their families, who are very good men, worked extremely hard for their women, but sometimes they would get weak in the flesh and make bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
Periodically, some of them made the same bad choice multiple times,
Oh
right?
yes.
And now I'm not. No one will ever say that that's okay, right? If you agree not to do it, then that's fine. I do think men and women are different, though. I think that the man's reaction to the flesh has a different connection to his heart and his mind than the woman. I think that for men, not all men, but for a lot of men, they can, like TJ could probably sleep with this white lady and still really love his wife, but sleep with the white lady, right? So I remember thinking to myself, why is there so much weight on, you know, what somebody does with their body? I didn't understand that, to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, I wasn't showing you that I loved you by sleeping with you. I
Mm-hmm.
could sleep with you and not care about you, not even like you. I show my love by giving my time, my money, my emotional energy, putting up with your shit, letting you yell at me, whatever. Right. So what happened then? And I'm really going to dangerous territory when I talk like this, because
I don't think you
a
should
lot
let
of it. Hold on,
anybody
wait,
yell
wait,
at
hold
you
on. I
though.
get it.
Okay.
I get it. I get it. Hold on. And I remember people saying, "She's been with you for this long. Why don't you marry her? Why don't you marry her?" And I was like, well, because I don't know if I want to make a promise that I'm not interested in trying to keep. I
Ah.
was 27 years old. Now,
Okay.
now at 50, I can make that promise because I'm gonna be a senior citizen in a few years, and it's like it's no big deal. But but I think but I remember thinking I would be a great husband. I would love to be a husband, love to be a father, but I don't necessarily know if I liked what I saw when I saw many men, not just a couple, several men. One time I saw a white guy that I went to college with, and he was 31 years old and he'd been divorced, and I don't know what happened in his marriage, but he was devastated. He was traumatized. He lost all his money. He couldn't see his kids. This dude was damn near suicidal. And I didn't see this happen once or twice. I saw it happen many times. And I know a lot of people say, oh, but that was just a special case. That was just him. That was just him. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of men are afraid of, like, okay, I'm gonna go all in on this thing and make all these promises, and if you slip up, then they're gonna cash you out like you're a terrible person. And I just don't believe that things like this, like, I don't believe this means TJ was terrible to his wife. I do think, though, it does mean he broke a promise, which means that there's, a consequence of that for sure, right? But what if he just told his wife, like, look, baby, I love you, but I'm TJ Holmes. I got all these opportunities. Things are gonna happen. You could be my main, but I'm gonna have stuff going on. Then people will be like, "Oh, you're a dirty dog. How could you
How
talk
is he
like
a
that?"
dirty dog if he's being honest? Like the thing is
I don't
that
think
it's
honesty is always
yeah.
rewarded, though. I think because
Hmm.
remember, TJ sat there. TJ sat there on Good Morning America, telling the story of Ime Udoka. He covered the Ime Udoka story and had to pretend like, "Oh, well, I would never do that."
Hmm.
Even though he was doing the same thing as Ime. But what if he'd been honest and said, "You know what? I slept with a white lady on my job too." It like it's like, no, the penalty would be high. So I think that I would really, in my world, I'd rather you be honest with me and
Yeah.
and be ready to accept the honest version of you
Yeah.
than to, like, make some agreements and then have stuff just fall apart when my little world gets shattered.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say before you move on to another point, I just want to say that I mean that is I really commend you for that because how disastrous would it have been if you had just gotten married in your 20s to somebody just because you were dating them for a long time and you weren't even ready for marriage in your 20s. And
Yeah,
I really
and I did not appreciate the pressure.
like the fact that you were very introspective and you knew that you could not be a husband to that lady,
I will,
whoever she
well,
was.
and that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be her husband. I would
Yeah.
have I would have taken good care of her. I would have taken, and I wouldn't have been a cheater because it wasn't like I had, like all these plans to do these terrible, crazy things. It was just more like I was like, dang, like,
You just
so you
weren't
mean, so
ready.
you mean, so you mean if I mess up one time, you could take all my money and take my kids, and then tell everybody I was a terrible person, even though I'm not. That did not seem fair to me, and I think that that's what I hear guys say when I'm talking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I talk to men and women are not in the room, I think any smart woman who really wants to understand men needs to go and listen to a conversation among men where women are not around. They'll tell you all the truth that you want to know. You just got to be ready to hear it.
Okay, so no, so what I was trying to say was that I think it's really nice that you were that introspective at that age to know that you couldn't really be a proper husband to someone and make that type of commitment in your 20s, which by the way is tough to make a commitment like that in your 20s. And I really like that you held out and said, you know what, I'm not quite ready for that. And waited until you were ready for that to be a husband to somebody. Like wanting a wife, a lot of men don't do what you did, boys. A lot of men, they want to have a husband. I mean,
You
they
mean a
want to
wife?
have a wife. A lot of men want to have a wife, but then they don't want to be a husband. They don't want to have that level of commitment and dedication.
Is being a husband just all about what you do with your
Um,
body?
well,
Like, is that it? Like, does that
that's part of it.
right?
And the other part of it is when you made the statement, like he should have just said, I'm T.O. Holmes. This is what it's going to be. I'm going to be sleeping around with a whole bunch of people. If he had been like that with her, then she had the choice to make the decision, okay, I'm going to go ahead and marry him, knowing what it is. Or she could say, you know what? This quite isn't quite the type of marriage that I want to have. So this is just not right for me. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So then he could have been giving her the choice about what he wants, but whatever it is, at least he was honest about who he was. And I think it's so important for men and women to be really honest about who they are.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I kind of think, you know, I mean, and I think that this calculus is different from men and women. I really do. I think men don't have to worry as much about a woman cheating on them, even though women can do that. We know
Women can,
we
for
know women
sure.
can cheat. There's no question about it. But it's like it's not. You don't hear as many of those stories as you hear about things that happen with men. And I really think that
That's too bad too.
it's right, but I
Hmm.
mean I process it like it's real interesting. I don't know. It's tough. I'll say this. every time, let's not talk about cheating, but every time I run into something that makes me unhappy in a relationship, with you even, something that
Mm-hmm.
just drives me crazy and gets on my nerves. There's almost nothing that becomes like a deal breaker. There's almost nothing that makes me say, if you do this again, you out of here. You know, and the reason
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have any deal breakers really with you for the most part, except if you tried to kill me while you were smoking crack or something like that, then that would be different. But
Yeah.
for the most part, the reason I don't have any deal breakers is because there's one key question I ask myself
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship: would I be happier with you or happier without you? Right, even
That's a
with
good question to
even
ask.
with your flaws, even if you have a horrible flaw, even if, you know because terrible things can happen. People can get really sick, people can, um become change into a different person, things can, so it's like that. But that's my calculus is, okay, so this stuff is really making me mad. You violated our relationship because you're getting on my nerves, or whatever it is you're doing. I don't think when women hurt men, it's not usually from cheating. It's something else. It might be nagging him to death, or yelling at him, or somehow demeaning him in some way, right?
Well,
And I've seen it.
nobody should. Here, I just want to jump in because
But hold on, I
you
get
made 2 points that I
hold on,
want to
hold on. But
respond
let me
to.
well let me
Okay.
respond.
All right.
So it's like, I think at the end of the day, I just ask myself, am I better off with you or without you? Is TJ Holmes' wife better with him, where he might step out? What?
I'm trying to remember my 2 points, but go ahead.
Okay, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. But seriously, so I'm thinking, if I'm TJ Holmes' wife, it's like, okay, you have 99% of TJ Holmes. There's 1% that you don't have, but there's 99% of him that you do have. Do you want to go from 99% to 0%? And then you're single again, and you're dating all these men who are only doing God knows what, who could be bringing diseases into your house. I don't know. I don't know which is better.
Yeah, I wanted to respond because a while back you mentioned that um just because somebody cheats, that makes you a bad person. And I'm very curious about like where that comes from, because in my practice I always try, because I come up with infidelity issues all the time, and sometimes it's women, sometimes it's men. It actually is pretty 50-50 in my practice in terms of that level of deception. And one thing that I found was that I always make it clear that just because this person has been unfaithful doesn't mean that they're a bad person. And so I think that we have to get away from making somebody feel like they are a bad person just because they did this particular thing, just because they violated the trust or they broke the trust in the relationship. That doesn't make them a bad person, because chances are the cheating happens for various different reasons, but when that level of violation happens, it signals that there were some issues in the relationship that weren't addressed, that should have been addressed.
Hmm.
So, like, for instance, I'm just giving you a scenario. This isn't anything necessarily that, I'm, confronted with all the time. But one scenario could be that maybe there's somebody just like, oh, wait,
No, keep talking,
are
Vicky.
you
Yeah.
on here? Okay. Maybe there's somebody who is like trying to work with their spouse to make sure that their needs are being met. Maybe there's somebody who So just because one person is unfaithful and another person is hurt because they're unfaithful, it doesn't really mean that anybody in that relationship is a bad person. So I wanted to make sure that I address what you said, because just because you cheat doesn't make you a totally bad person. It just means that there's issues going on in the relationship. Maybe there's issues going on within you internally, that you feel like it's a compulsion, that you just like have a sex addiction and you just have to go to all of these things. It could be some issues like that that's driving the reason why someone's
I
doing some of those things. So it's important for you to, it was the sound gone because you went to another
no.
thing. Okay. Yeah, it was no sound. was making like a really good point, and I
you're
got
making a good
lost
point. They no, they heard you, and
because you were tittling
I,
around with
no, I
your
I hear
phone.
what you're saying, right? And you've
Hmm.
said that to me before, right?
Okay.
And one of the things I do hear that, and I think, but it's kind of like I don't believe in engaging in the act of behavior modification of another person. You know,
No, you
like,
shouldn't do
and
that.
what I mean by that is when I say, hey, okay, you did this, you didn't, let's say I say to you, you're not submissive enough.
Uh
And
huh.
you say, well, why would you say I'm a bad person? I say, no, 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 you're not a bad person. You just need to be trained on how to, you just have a fundamental disrespect of authority from a man, and you need to be trained on how to behave properly, right? But
Uh huh.
what if you just simply, you know, just don't want to be submissive and you're perfectly normal. You're a
Hmm.
normal person. You just this is just who you are, right? So my point is to say I know men. I've seen men who cheat. And I've seen more men than women. I know women do it too. We know that, right?
Oh yeah, they
When
do.
I was single, I got hit on by several married women. I remember that.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean, it would happen a lot, you know. And usually, it was most of the time it was because the relationship at home was all but dead, you know. But
Hmm.
I really think that this idea that somebody cheating means that there's something wrong with the relationship or there's an unmet need. I think that
It
may
could. It
I think
is like that
I
in a
hear,
lot of ways.
well, you know,
Hmm.
I think women are more likely to do that than men. I know men who cheat just because they just like women. They just say my
Hmm.
wife is perfect, she's wonderful, everything's great. I just want more than one woman.
Yeah, and I like that. I like when men
That's not
say that.
that might not be an addiction. I mean,
No, it's not an
you had
addiction.
kings with 20 wives and then
Yeah.
30 concubines.
No, and I think that that's really good. I don't make any judgment when I'm with my clients. You know what I mean? It's just like because I do think that open marriages, like a lot of people have open marriages, and we've talked about that on Pillow Talk before. I think open marriages is a viable option for a lot of people who feel that way. You know, for
Hmm.
people who feel like and you're right. I do know a lot of men and women who are just like, I'm kind of down for open marriages. I don't really feel like I need to be with just one person all the time and have this one person satisfy this one need for me 24/7. And so, and that is a viable option. But the key to it is not whether you want to open marriage or not. The key to it is making that agreement with your spouse to say, okay, let's explore open marriages because this is the things that I want to do. These are the things that I want to do, and having a conversation about that, and having an agreement, because all healthy relationships have an agreement. It's not telling somebody what to do. It's not saying you better do this or else. It's just saying, let's sit down and talk about how we want our marriage to be, and if we're going to change how we want our marriage to be, you need to be open and honest about that.
Well, one thing that is
Uh-huh.
happening is a lot of men are being more honest about it, and
Good.
they're just not getting married, and then
Right.
but then they have to deal with black women who get mad because they run into these guys who are players who just say, "Look, I'm not promising you nothing. Like
Well, I don't think a player, see,
I'm
that's
not."
interesting
You
because,
know, or you know, I've just seen that. I was on the airplane today with a poor lady who was telling me about all the men she was meeting. She was close to 60. She's dating, and she was talking about how she can't find men that want to commit and want to do this and want to do that. And I heard her. I really empathized with what she was dealing with, but I was kind of like thinking, you're looking for this. She had a list of about 10 things she wanted from a man, and one of like God fearing, fully committed, doesn't cheat, has enough money, things like that. And even if you take away the money and the material stuff, it was kind of like, I get it. I get the cheating thing, that you don't like it, but she was dead lonely. This lady seemed really unhappy to be alone. I didn't tell her. I was thinking to myself, I don't really know a lot of men like that. She asked me, do you have any single friends who fit that criteria? I said, no, I don't. Because the men I know, I mean, I know a lot of guys now, and a lot of them are married or they're players. I don't know a lot of like
hmm,
single God fearing men who are going to be completely committed in a relationship. Blah, blah. The guys like that might be the losers. I know. I might know some losers, but it's just, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you call them players. Like, I think that men who feel like they want to sleep around with a whole bunch of women, I don't think that they're players if they're being honest about what it is. I think players is in a negative category because they are playing people. They're saying,
Mm.
hey, it's just me and you. It's just, I'm not seeing anybody else. And then they going around on Tuesday, they with another woman, promising another woman all these things. Like, to me, like a player is like somebody who's just like playing around, telling women terrible, lying to a bunch of women and
Or
manipulating them. Like, that's what I hear about player. But I think
or better
if a
yet,
man is honest and he's just like, hey, I'm not gonna make this commitment to anybody. I'm
Mhm.
just like playing. I'm just dating around. And then what that does, I don't think that makes that man a player. I think that makes that man very
Well, when I
honorable.
say players, I'm talking about just men that will date multiple women, and
Oh,
and the way
okay.
and when I was single before I married you, and when I was in the
Yes, I was single
like
before I
right,
married you.
right, and let me just tell you, Kevin Samuels was right about some of the stuff that he said before he died. He wasn't right about everything, but some of the things he said about a high income
You
man.
always bring up Kevin
Well,
Samuels every time we have a
I'm
conversation.
bringing it up because people needed to listen to him a little bit more. It doesn't mean he was right. I fought with Kevin. I fought with him. And it felt I hated it because a lot of guys got mad at me, and because I said some of the stuff he's saying is being said in a mean way. And I don't like telling people they're gonna die alone. And I don't believe women over 35 are leftovers. I think that was unnecessary and untrue. There are plenty of beautiful women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. And I think that's where I said, okay, stop that. That's silly. But the area where I think people should probably hear a little more is that I was astonished when I was single and I was in my 40s. I was now I had a little more fame. Like I get recognized on the street, stuff like that. So my life might have been a little different. But I wasn't T.J. Holmes famous. I wasn't on Good Morning America, but I was famous enough, and I had money. And you'd be amazed at how many single women there are that will sex you up as much as you want without you promising them anything. You don't even gotta lie because they don't even feel like they have the right to ask no questions. They don't even a lot of them won't even ask you, like, who were you with? What were you doing? And the thing is that a wife gets tremendous privilege. A wife is like the person that a man says, okay, I'm gonna answer to this woman. I'm gonna respond to this woman. I'm gonna make sure that I'm coming through for her as much as possible. And so those are just different realities. And I really just wonder if it's like if there's something happening in the dating market that we're just not acknowledging. But
Mhm.
maybe it's okay. Maybe all the women that are single at 50 are happy.
Well, you know what?
I don't know.
That's
Go ahead.
pretty cool. So you gave it all up for me.
I mean, people, but no,
Isn't that?
but usually when I try to tell the truth, like people would just
Yeah.
say, "Oh, shut up." Nobody
No,
wants to
I'm
hear
not
that.
saying oh shut up. I'm saying wow, that's really interesting. You gave all that up for me. That's pretty cool.
Well, I'm not talking about me in particular.
Well, you were giving an
I was
example of
using myself
yourself.
as an example, and you're right.
Yeah.
I gave it all up for you also because the main driver of me wanting to get married was not just that I loved you that much and I thought you were that amazing. It was my father. My father was the driving factor. My father has been married to my mother for 48 years. So in our family, marriage is a part of manhood. So when my
Ah.
brother and I have an issue with our wives, we call our father. He gives us advice. So think about a black man who doesn't have a father in the house. Most black men never had a father in the home that was married to their mother.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, it's real interesting. I don't know. I kind of just I don't know. I don't know what the
I
answer
hope
is.
your phone doesn't go out. Your battery is really low.
It'll go out
I'm
soon.
worried that it's just gonna cut us off and we're having like a really good conversation.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll go get the
Okay.
charger.
Okay.
But I think marriage is honorable. I saw a sister who said, "Little lady says marriage is honorable." I think it is honorable, but I
Hmm.
think it is honorable if you grew up seeing it as an honorable thing.
Yeah, you
If you
need.
did, yeah, if you didn't grow up seeing it as an honorable thing, you see it as hard work, as an unnecessary burden.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that you see marriage as like a place where you can grow. Because I think what it does to men, it turns men into better men. Because you have to be able to grow in a bunch of ways. And it turns women into better women. It really is a growth process to be married to somebody. And part of that growth process is to try to grow in a way where you can figure out what's important to you and live your life accordingly to that. Like, it's not worth it for me going out sleeping with all these women all the time. That's what a lot of men say. I just want to have this one person, for me to spend the rest of my life with. And I'm giving up all of those things. Being able to give up your single lifestyle is a growth process, because it's going to require part of you to develop. And some people aren't ever ready for that type of growth process. And it's okay. Not that marriage is not for everybody.
Well, I wonder if women would have the option of sleeping with a lot of men at the same time, if they would do it. If let's say nobody judged you,
No one judged you.
right? If you could like have 5 guys come over every week and you sleep with 5 guys, or would most women choose
I can
one
just choose. I can
or
just be
choose?
like, drop your pants. Let me see what you got going on.
Yeah,
Let me see who
or
am I
no,
picking
or
today.
really, or seriously, or if or women, or if you let's say you gave women that choice, like you can either pick the guy you like the most and be committed to him, or you can have all 5 of them, and all 5 of those guys, you will be sharing yourself with all 5 of those guys, and they will be sharing themselves with you. Like, what do y'all think? Do you think women would choose the 5 guys restaurant, or would they choose the solo route?
Well, the thing is that I don't know if it's quantity or quality or what it is. I think for many of us, and for men too, if they're really being honest, it's like that intercourse. It comes. Why are you laughing? The
I'm
intercourse
looking at
comes.
the
I'm
responses.
so
Teacher
distracted.
teacher says, "Hell no, I need to preserve my body."
Okay.
Leila Morale says, "Get you a plumber." Go ahead, keep going.
Okay. So what I was saying is this: that, like, having that level of intimacy, I think it's important to also have, like, emotional intimacy. So that emotional connection that you have with somebody, it makes the sexual intimacy way stronger.
I think it
So it
does.
okay,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
But I am going to disagree though. As a man, I think it is a little bit different. I think that.
Well,
I mean,
that's speak for yourself, because I have spoken to a lot
I.
of men
But are you a
who have
man?
I'm not a man,
But are you a
but
man?
I'm just
You're.
quoting other
I
men,
know
and
you're quoting other men.
some of the men in the chat can
Hmm.
also weigh on
Hmm.
this, because I hear what a lot of men say, and they're just like, what, it's just so much better when I have that emotional connection. Believe it or not, there are a lot of men who come to me and say, I would love to have an emotional connection with
Oh,
somebody.
absolutely. They have an emotional
Absolutely. And
connection
they
with,
know
right,
that.
but what I here's what I would argue. They have an emotional connection with their wives even when they cheated on them. So I think that is the dilemma, that I don't disagree. Everybody wants an emotional connection to something. I just think that the way men and women view emotional connections can vary, and that we don't acknowledge that. I think that we look at the feminine perspective because we have a feminized society. And I think the reason people had such a hard time with Kevin Samuels is because he came in rough. He did come in rough, but he came in with a really masculine perspective. And that's why
So
millions that
you really feel like he was, like, really embraced things that were masculine. Like, I didn't really see much masculinity when I saw him, but maybe that's you. I saw a lot of not feminine. I saw a lot of I just didn't see masculinity. I don't When I see him, I don't think of masculine for some reason. But
well,
that's
it
not
I
like
mean
my own
some of
view.
the stuff was
Like,
a little well, some of it was a little shallow,
mhm.
and also what's the word,
I just have a different.
shallow and strange. Like, what's your dress size? Like, I don't think black men necessarily need the, like, I don't care, but I think a lot of black men I know don't care about your dress size. They just want to know what you look like, right? Because they know a woman can have a big dress size but still look really good, be thick or whatever the case may be. So that sort of idea that most men want women who weigh 18 pounds is just kind of silly. And I think that him saying that women over 35 are leftovers and unattractive, that's just stupid. That's just not true. I've seen beautiful women in their 50s and beyond. Um, but where I think people should hear a little bit is I think when he was talking about, like when he would talk to women that would say, okay, I'm appealing because I run my own business and I make a lot of money. And he would say, men with money don't care how much money you have. That was something I agreed with. I know you had your own money and I think it was great. You're a professional. I love your career, but literally you could have been a person with no job and no career. And I would not care because I had plenty of money. I didn't need an extra breadwinner. I didn't need somebody else bringing in income, but that was my position, and so I think that that's something we kind of forget. Like we go in talking about what we think we offer that's valuable to the other party, but we don't think about what the other party actually wants.
Okay, so I have a question. According to you, what would you consider to be masculine? What's what's
Well,
what's a
I
real
mean,
what's
I
a
think there's
man, like manhood and masculine? I'd like to hear like your definition of it, just your definition, because
I think
everybody has their own definition.
I feel like masculinity is well, it starts with protective energy, provider energy, assertive energy. I think some level of ambition. But men are not, like teacher says, men are not monolithic, right? So we do differ.
Mm-hmm. I
And
just said that.
but there are some themes. There are some themes, and there are some patterns, though.
So what'd you say? You said protection. What else?
Well, in my household, my father showed me masculinity by being a extreme provider. He went and got things done for the family, and he always
Mm-hmm.
he claimed his territory, he protected. He claimed us all as his children. I wasn't his biological child. Um, my mother was always treated as a royal member of the family, like she was very important. Um, he was very hardworking. He has always been ambitious. He always wanted to create a better life for himself, and things like that. Um, and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't no punk. You
What
know,
is what no punk? What does that mean?
it means he ain't no punk. It means you try to punk him, you're gonna have a problem.
What do you mean by punk? I don't know what that means. Like if somebody came to him in a certain way, like
Yeah. He didn't back down from challenges very often.
okay, yeah, that's an interesting definition. I mean, I agree. Not that I don't disagree with it. You're a
Mhm.
man. You're talking about what manhood means, so you're educating me on your definition. But it's just interesting that there's other aspects of men too that could be related to love and showing having feelings and showing emotions and showing a sensitivity. Like I've seen your dad, do some really thoughtful, beautiful things to the people that he loves and the people that's around him. How he treats me is like really beautiful.
Mhm.
When I sit down and I have like all these conversations with your dad, it's just like it's just so cool. He's a good listener. He is very smart.
Mhm.
Although he's not very formal education may not be there, but he's extremely intelligent, and I just enjoy having conversations with him. And I just like I see that side of your dad, and to me, that's also manhood. That's also masculine. It's also like being able to listen and being able to tune in to the people around him, how he is with his grandchildren and children. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. I think that we need to include that in the definition of manhood.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I kind of think that um, every man makes his own, definition of masculinity, and I think that listening. Are you guys able to hear us? Okay, let us know if you can still hear us. And we don't left the TJ Holmes topic. We
We
left
haven't.
that back 30 minutes
No, but
ago.
it should be like this is where it should go.
Well,
Because it's not about TJ Holmes. It's about what is he doing for his family. Like instead of being with his wife, he's walking around. He's going around. He's going around. You know,
well,
being with.
okay.
Mhm.
I think that I get it. I mean, I totally get that, but I just really don't like the idea that women get let off the hook
Oh,
because
I see.
because because what I see is I've seen a lot of men who
Hmm.
have been hurt badly by women, and it just didn't come in the form of cheating. So
Yeah.
the woman comes off looking like she's innocent, and the
Yeah.
thing is, when a woman cheats, a lot of times people will ask, why did she do that?
Hmm.
Like what's going on in the relationship. Why don't we ask about TJ? Maybe his wife was is a mean person. Maybe she's
Hmm.
disrespectful. Maybe she's
Hmm.
denying him affection. I mean, like so. I think that if we're gonna start finger pointing,
Yeah.
I notice we finger point at men a little bit more than we do with women. But honestly, I just don't know if finger pointing at anybody is necessarily productive.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I do think that because there's hard reasons for getting divorced,
Hmm.
which could be cheating, but underneath that is a lot of soft reasons, and soft reasons is how you communicate with somebody. Are you respectful to that person? Do you have genuine friendship with them? Do you feel like the relationship is supporting your career goals? Do you feel as if your spouse is helping you become a better person? All of those things. If those things start to deteriorate, your commitment to the marriage deteriorates, and your trust level deteriorates as well. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you this. My parents who stayed married for 48 years. My mother. One thing my mother believes is that you got to be real thoughtful and careful about how many expectations we put on other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's expectations draws pressure, um, and it doesn't mean you have no expectations, but at the same time, letting I'm when I married you, my goal was to let you be exactly who you are, whatever that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, I rarely come in and say stop doing that or talk to me different or change the way you do this or change the way you do that. I try not to. You painted the whole house. You went and got painters and painted the whole house, and I was like, well, as long as it ain't interrupting what I'm doing,
I
and
tried to bring you in on the whole thing.
you
You
did
didn't
you did
really
well.
interested.
The thing here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't really want the house to be painted. I didn't give a shit. I think the house looked great, but you wanted the house painted,
Well, it was
and so
looking
but
kind of
let
run
I get it.
down.
I get it. I hear you. But
Hmm.
but listen. I said okay because you're the woman of the house.
Yeah.
And that means that as long as it doesn't interfere with my life too much, I pick my battles with you. And what I have an issue with is that I see couples where people are picking every single battle because
Yeah.
you think you own and control another human being when really that is a free thinking individual that you need to learn to respect who they are. Either accept who they are or walk away, you know, and I or see if you can do better, and I just think in general, um, like when you painted the whole house, I was like, okay, well, for the record, I don't think the house needs to be painted, but okay, fine, take the money out of the account, pay the painters, go for it. And I don't, I just really kind of feel like, in general, accepting the more you can accept people for who they are, whatever that means, the more likely you are to be happy. It does, and then people think that that's simping, or they think that that makes you a pick me. Like every time you have black women that are like empathizing with black men online, I've seen people call them pick me's, and that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. People who talk like that, you're gonna be sitting there single for the rest of your life because ain't nobody gonna be able to meet your impossible standard. And then when you have the men that call other men simps because they love and respect some woman and decide to treat her kindly, well, those guys are idiots. Those guys are punks. Because if you value a woman, you should treat her well. Like, what kind of punk are you to not think that a woman should be treated well because she's standing beside you? So I personally just think, my advice, my Uncle Boyce advice, for what it's worth to everybody listen. I know you writing down your notes because you always thinking about what you want to say. You ain't really listening to me.
I'm listening to you now
It's
because it's
okay.
all written
I'm gonna
down.
talk to them. I'm gonna talk
No,
to
I'm,
them.
I'm.
All right.
I'd like
So
to jump in when you're done.
I
When
know.
you take a breath, boys,
I know.
I'd
I
like to
know.
say
Well,
something.
I'm on the soapbox right now. But no, seriously. But on my soapbox, I really that's been my formula for I've been very happy. I didn't get married for a long time because I just didn't want to, and but I've been really happy in most of my relationships, and the happiness was correlated with training myself to learn how to accept and love a
Hmm.
person for who they are.
Hmm.
Um, and but at the same time, I've always resisted anybody
Hmm.
that's tried to change me or told me that who I am is
Hmm.
not appropriate, not proper. I'm not following the rules. I'm not behaving the way they think I should behave. I'm not a kid.
Hmm.
And I really think we got too many people out here thinking they can control other people. And that is a formula, in my view, that is a formula for frustration and disaster.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying. I mean, I really do think that people need to learn how to accept people, particularly when they show you who you are. You really need to accept who they are. But I also think that it's really interesting that healthy relationships, it is nothing is about ownership and control. Like if you feel like somebody's trying to own you and someone's trying to control you, that is definitely not a healthy relationship. And so whenever you're in a scenario where someone's trying to make you do something or make you be something that you're not, like that is a signal that something terribly wrong with the relationship. Now, on the other hand, if you're able to sit down with your partner and you're able to say, okay, what are the rules of our relationship? Let's two of us as grown people come together and decide here are the things that are acceptable and here are things that are unacceptable. And in making that commitment to each other, to know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Now, that's not about ownership and that's not about control. That's about two people coming together and deciding how they want their marriage to operate. So that's healthy. Owning and controlling somebody is definitely not healthy. The second point that I wanted to make was that, yeah, nobody can read your mind. And so I think it's so important not to criticize people, not to tell them that they're wrong, not to tell them that who they are is somewhat flawed. However, I also think that it's important to be able to tell that person, here's what I need from you. Here's how I feel, and here's what I need from you. And there have been many times you've done that with me. And I just love when you do that. Like,
Mhm.
there was a couple of times where you said, you know what, Alicia, when you made that statement or when you did this, I felt a certain way about it. And I really appreciate it if you did this with me. And all the times that you said that to me, haven't I always been like, thank you so much, Boyce, for telling me, how you feel about that. And I give you a hug and a kiss. And I always say, yes, Boyce, I will give you what you need. And so I think that's so important. So as long as you're communicating your needs and not criticizing another person, as long as you and your partner sit down and come up with rules about the relationship, not making it about ownership and control, everything is copacetic.
Well, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear it.
Yeah.
I can't say I agree with it. I know for a fact that a lot of what you're saying has to be wrong, and a lot of what I'm saying has to be wrong. And the reason I know that it has to be wrong is because with all the stuff that we know, that with all the great research that we have about relationships and everything else, the divorce rate is too high. Black, especially in the black community, families don't stay together very long, and I don't think where it's healthy to have a world where, in the midst of all these broken relationships, in many cases, we're vilifying the men.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
think.
that. I think men are vilified in our community way too much. And I'm not being a
Mhm.
pick me by saying that. Like, I'm really saying that, a lot of, especially black men are struggling with a lot of things. If when I did my podcast on black men who had issues with trauma or painful memories, we talked about how black men, they have outlets to communicate, but they just don't take advantage of them. And so it's very difficult for black men or men in general to be able to talk about how they're feeling and what they're going through and be accepted for who and what they are when they talk about their feelings. And I think that we need to have way more avenues for that in a way that's healthy, not in a way that's divisive, because you know how I feel about divisive conversations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think sometimes what I think that you're right. There has to be more communication about how you feel and what you're going through.
Hmm.
I can say, for men, when I'm sort of listening to what they're saying, I don't think they feel like they're really being heard. I don't think that they feel. I think that they're being told by the world that, you know the reason you lost your family, which is the most abusive thing you can do to a person, is kick them out of their house and tell them they can't be live in the house with their own kids. The reason you lost your family is because you didn't follow the rules. You didn't do what we said, and that to me is as ridiculous as Muslim countries that will stone a woman because she commits adultery or because she cheated or because she's not a virgin anymore or whatever. I kind of think I just think all that's kind of silly. I think that men are not the terrible monsters that people make them out to be.
Yeah.
And what I'm really concerned about too is, like, I know, I can say for a fact that my father did cheat, and he's talked about it, and when he was younger, and a lot of people would say that that makes him toxic, and that made him a terrible husband. And have always kind of resisted that and said, no, actually he was great, and it was very nice to have him in the house because he was part of the family, he was part of the security, and my mother would say the same thing. However, at the same time, you can't say that without, it's almost as bad as like when somebody tries to say that a pedophile shouldn't get 100 years in prison. They should get therapy and maybe 10 years in jail or something like that, right? You say that, then people say, oh, you're siding with the pedophile. And it's like, no, you're not. You're actually just saying that the punishment should probably fit the crime. So ultimately, I think that um, a lot of families are broken because we don't try to take the time to really understand men and who they are and what they want and what's going to make them happy. We just spend time telling them what to do. So I see a lot of men. What you saw with Kevin Samuels, for example, was a rebellion. I think you saw. I keep bringing him up because I think Kevin was very relevant. I think he was. I think he was culturally impactful. He was as impactful. He was impactful like Kanye West is. Kanye West, you and I both talked to him. Kanye has some psychiatric issues, but Kanye's impactful and relevant, and you can't say he's not. So I think the same thing can be true about Kevin. So long story short, I think overall, if I'm a woman and I'm trying to really get me a lasting relationship with a man, I spend less time listening to myself and listening to my girlfriends than I spend actually listening to men and accepting men. I believe men will stay in places where they are accepted and they are loved, not in places where they're judged and they're controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think that I think it is very painful to end a marriage like what this gentleman here is going through and many other people are going through when they get a divorce, and he's getting a divorce for the second time.
Yeah.
So I know it's very painful. And sometimes a lot of people um when a relationship is over, it does feel like abuse to them because of the abandonment. And I think a lot of us have like this abandonment issue, and they in their mind they're thinking they've never had examples of healthy termination. Like termination in the Black community is always coupled with arguing, fighting, something very traumatic. And so I think that there is just, and you know what, it may be like a class that I'm thinking about teaching a class on this, on like healthy ways to enter into a relationship and healthy ways to pull back and healthy ways to have conversations up front so that you know that you're making a commitment to the right person. Healthy, respectful ways to end relationships and respectful ways to sit in relationships, because I think we all need to have those examples, because ending a relationship is so traumatic for a lot of people, particularly when it brings up abandonment issues. The second thing that I wanted to make was that just because you're married to somebody doesn't mean that you sign up for abuse. Okay. And if somebody does something or says something, I mean, because sometimes you'll say something, it'll hurt my feelings. And I'll be like, boys, that hurt my feelings. And you'll say to me, okay, what did I do to hurt your feelings? And I'm like, you said this and that really hurt my feelings. And the thing is that if you had looked at me and was just like, you stupid raggedy hoe, if you had said that to me, then I wouldn't have married you, and we probably wouldn't even be sitting here doing this pillow talk. But when I come to you with something and I say, boys, you hurt my feelings, you're like, what did I do? You will give me a hug and a kiss, and you will sit and listen to me. And that makes me feel good. And it also makes me feel good because when I come to you with something like that, you change. And it's not about control. It's about you being considerate, and it's about you getting to know me. You'd be like, you know what? Alicia doesn't like when I call her names, or Alicia doesn't like when I do this. I'm not going to do that anymore because that bothers me. Not to say that you call me names like that, but if you do something to bother me, like you treat me in a way that's really sweet. And so what I'm saying is that in a lot of relationships and a lot of marriages, it's like total disrespect going back and forth. It's people saying, oh my goodness, you did something to hurt my feelings. And then they're just like, so what? I don't care if I hurt your feelings. Go away. So if you do that to somebody, how long can you live with somebody that's like sitting around being rude and disrespectful and don't care about you and not considerate of
Mm.
you and just mean and terrible. You have to have that level of love and commit. Like, to me, that's a level of commitment. So if I come to you and I say, you know what, boys, I'm really bothered by that. I love the fact that you respond to me in a way that's beautiful, because that makes me feel like you're committed to the marriage.
Mm.
So that's what I had to say about that. And that's probably when the commitment and stuff is out the door. That's when women and men and all of that want to get out. So you have to be committed to respect.
Well, mhm.
What?
Somebody said, "Boy, stop typing."
Why are you? Is somebody impersonating you? Impersonate? Is
No, I
someone
wasn't. I
impersonating you?
wasn't typing. I was
Oh, Boyce
chewing
is eating.
Skittles. It must have sounded like I was typing something.
Oh,
But
Boyce is
anyway,
eating candy.
yeah, I was just listening. Okay, well, you know what? Um,
And I
I
thank you.
think that's a
I just want to say I really thank you for being really kind and sweet to me. Not only to me, but to the kids. And I just want to publicly, because I know your love language is words of affirmation. So let me give you some
mm,
words of affirmation. I really do
yes. Go
appreciate
ahead.
you. I really do appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, and I love you.
I love you too. So
Yeah, yeah. It'll be 30 years since I met you.
we have really got to do something great. Our
Yeah.
30-year
Well, we gotta
anniversary.
go back to campus.
I think we should take the kids with us and everything. Just take
Yeah, yeah.
everybody. It's just going to be a big pilgrimage. Let's go down to Bloomington, 30 years from when we met, and just like celebrate.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Put it in your calendar, because you are not traveling that weekend. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be like, he can't go. I'm going to be telling you
No,
what to do.
that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Yeah, I look forward to it. Well, I would tell you with T.J. Holmes, I wish him and his family the best. And the lady, I was, to be honest with you, I'm here to talk about the black person, but there is a white lady here, Amy Rodush, or something, and I hope she does well. I hope she's fine, and his wife, most importantly.
But they fell in love with each other because they trained for the New York Marathon together.
Wow,
Like, he should be training for the marathon with his wife.
maybe she don't want to run. She'll probably start running now. I need to keep up with these white women. they be running. They be running.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, anyway, guys, it was fun hanging
Anyway,
out with y'all. We appreciate you. And Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com. She sees couples and individuals, and she's been doing it for many years. So if you'd like to learn more about it, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com or at coachingwithdralicia on Instagram. And if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you also subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't done it yet. And so we appreciate you guys. It was a lot of fun, and we're gonna come back again pretty soon and do another pillow talk. We try to do a couple of these a week, and it's an absolute blast, and it's a blast because we're happy to know that there are other intelligent black people out here that can appreciate smart conversations. As we ain't here to feed you a bunch of ignorance, but being smart doesn't mean you can't also have fun, and that's what we love doing with the pillow talk. So God bless you guys. Have a good night, and we will see you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.